Hello and welcome to the Business Mindset Podcast. I'm your host, Holly Worton. I've been an entrepreneur since 1999, and I know firsthand how difficult it can be to build a business without the right mindset. This is a podcast for those of us who struggle with showing up in our business with confidence and authenticity, who resist taking big action because of fears and doubts, who know deep down that it's possible to create something bigger, and yet you're not. This podcast combines powerful strategies on how to upgrade your business mindset, along with practical business tips to grow your business more easily in a way that feels aligned. This podcast features solo shows with me and also interviews with inspiring women entrepreneurs from around the world, including my monthly co-hosted episodes with Joe Casey. My goal is to help you grow your business more quickly and easily by transforming your mindset. For me, mindset work is a lifelong practice, and I want to help you make a habit out of mindset work. Thank you so much for joining us today. Now, let's get into this week's episode. Hello and welcome to the Business Mindset Podcast, episode 266. This is your host, Holly Worton, and I'm back with another solo episode. Today, I'm going to talk about what to do when you don't feel like doing anything. This week's episode is inspired by this week's episode. What I mean by that is that I have waited until the last minute to record it. I had a very lazy and unproductive week, and I really didn't get much done, which was disappointing because I'm going to be out of the office for the next 2 weeks, and I plan to get everything done and get up to date last week between Monday and Friday. Now, today's Saturday when I'm recording this, and I'm kind of scrambling to get stuff done over the weekend because I've got plans for Monday, and then from Tuesday to Saturday, I'm away. So while I thought this was a reasonable expectation in terms of getting things done, it didn't happen. And in this episode, I thought it would be useful for me to actually talk about that experience and explore why I didn't manage to get much done, what I could have done differently, what I could do differently in the future, and why I think we need to be kind to ourselves when we have these lazy weeks. I also talk about why sometimes we do need to push ourselves to get things done, and sometimes we need to just give ourselves permission to take it easy. I know that we've all had weeks like this, so I hope you find this useful. I know a lot of times I use this podcast to talk about what I'm going through personally, and that really resonates with people because I am obviously not the only person who's experiencing this. So, what are you going to learn today? You're going to learn how to get clear on why you're not being productive in those weeks or days that you're having a non-productive streak. You're going to learn how to understand when it's time to give yourself a break or whether you need to push through the laziness. We're going to talk about why lazy days can be a symptom of burnout, why you need to pay attention to where you are in your cycle, if you're a woman, how to have reasonable expectations when planning your week, and why time blocking makes it easy to be flexible with your calendar. So, let's talk about my week. So, I originally planned to record this episode on Monday. I had it time blocked in my calendar, got to Monday, tons of stuff were going on Monday, it didn't happen. I moved it to Tuesday. Didn't happen on Tuesday. I moved it to Wednesday. Didn't feel like doing it on Wednesday. So I moved it to Thursday. Thursday, I did not get anything done in the afternoon when I had this planned. So I moved it to Friday. Nothing happened. Saturday, I planned to do this much earlier in the afternoon. I had a very lazy Saturday, despite the fact that I had 2 kind of big chunks of time to do stuff. One of them being this podcast episode. The other thing I didn't get done, and it's been dragged to tomorrow, which I hope I will finally be able to get it done. So, I'm not normally like this. So this confuses me because I'm usually good at planning my week, planning my days, and getting stuff done. Now, because I time block stuff into my calendar, that means that it allows me to be flexible. I can drag and drop stuff as I reorganize my priorities. I can drag and drop stuff if I see that one task took me a lot longer than I thought it would, and so I don't have time today, so I can drag something that's of lower priority to tomorrow. It's very flexible. I've talked about time blocking before, but if you don't know what it is, basically you can do this online with an online calendar, or you can do it with a printed calendar, but I use Google Calendar to manage my life pretty much. So I've got everything in there. I've got breakfast, lunch, dinner. I've got a little bit of time to kind of tidy up the house and my office. I've got time for my morning routine. I've got time to answer emails. I've got client calls. I've got tasks, stuff like recording podcast episodes, promoting my podcast, all kinds of stuff like that. It's all in the calendar. I love color, so it's all color-coded. I've got different colors for things that are outside the office, different colors for calls that are inside the office, personal stuff. It's all kind of color-coded and in my calendar in a way that makes it beautiful and fun to organize. So I know this is a system that works for me, except when it doesn't. And I find myself having these lazy weeks. And to be honest, I can't remember the last time this happened. I mean, I'd have to go back through my calendar and see, but I can't remember the last time I had a week like this where I just couldn't get stuff done. And it was an issue of I had low energy levels this week. I mean, I was fine in terms of sleep. I got enough sleep, which is something that's very important to me. But I just couldn't focus. I couldn't get stuff done. And all I did was feel like just sitting in my chair downstairs, my nice green armchair, and reading a book. And it wasn't even because that I'm reading is that gripping and I couldn't put it down. It was just I couldn't focus on anything but entertainment or reading. So earlier today, I was thinking, what happened to me? Like, what caused this? And I think this is one of the most important things when you have a week like this. It's important to get clear on why you're feeling the way you are, because that can give you kind of a hint of how to respond to it. So why was I not being productive this week? Why was I feeling lazy this week? Why was I not feeling like doing anything this week? Well, when I sat down and looked at some of the stuff that I actually did do, not just this week, but last week, which of course affected this week, it all made sense. So let me explain to you what my last couple of weeks were. So not last Sunday, Monday, but the week before, I went camping on my own for the first time. So Sunday, I hiked about 10 miles from my house to a campsite. I camped overnight, didn't sleep very well, and hiked back another 8 miles to my house Monday morning. Well, I was tired because I didn't get very much sleep, and I had hiked 18 miles in 2 days, which is normal for me when I'm doing a long-distance trail, but I was wearing a really heavy pack because I had all my camping gear in it. So it was a lot of hiking with a heavy pack, which made it much more challenging. So that was a lot of physical activity. Then, on Wednesday and Thursday of last week, I had my Lowland Leader Assessment. So that was the assessment or kind of exam for a course that I took in April, which is how to lead walking groups in lowland areas. So like Southern England, the areas that I live in. It was 10 hours on Wednesday and 5 hours on Thursday. So it was not only kind of the stress of being assessed on this, it was like an exam. I had to take turns leading the group and managing the group and also navigating in ways that I don't necessarily navigate when I'm planning a walk for a group. So it was a lot of focus, a lot of concentration, a lot of physical activity because, it was 10 hours of hiking on one day, 5 hours the second day. And then I had the smart idea of not canceling my private kickboxing class on Thursday morning. So after hiking for 10 hours on Wednesday, went to kickboxing at 7 o'clock in the morning on Thursday, and then went for the second day of my Lowland Leader Assessment on Thursday afternoon. It was also raining. It was pouring down rain all Thursday, which made navigation more difficult. It made everything more stressful. And it was just a very challenging 2 days. Now, I passed my assessment, but honestly, I barely passed it. I did not do well. So that was that. Then, that was last weekend. Then I went on Friday to this 3-hour healing session with my friend Sanit, which was super deep. We did a lot of really, really deep ancestral work. And that was one of those things where sometimes I don't feel, it's like I know I've done deep work, but I don't really recognize how much it's going to affect me. So I think I didn't take that into consideration. So after these 2 really challenging physical days, I go and do some really deep inner work. Then I went for a walk and a visit to a stone circle with my friend Kathy on Saturday. Then on Sunday, I decided I was going to go camping again. So I hiked to this campground and camped, slept much better than I had the weekend before, and then hiked back on Monday. Again, more challenging physical stuff, which was good from an exercise point of view, but I was, I think, wearing myself out a little bit. Then, on that Monday morning that I was returning back from my camping trip, my period started. Sorry if this is TMI, but I've talked about the importance of paying attention to your cycle before. Now, normally, I know that I'm pretty non-functional on the first day of my cycle. I have low energy levels, so I don't usually exercise, and I usually have the day blocked out in my calendar, so I don't plan to get much work done. So the fact that I had a couple of very kind of strenuous hiking days, because again, I was carrying that big pack for my camping trip, meant that drained my energy levels even more. So Monday was just like, I answered some emails, but didn't get much else done. Then Tuesday, I got stuff done. I don't know how, honestly. Wednesday, I could not focus at all. I got some stuff done in the morning, and then I just lost it in the afternoon. I have like blank spots in my calendar for Wednesday. Thursday, I again had 2 very deep healing sessions. One with this new woman I hadn't worked with before. We did body talk session. And then another session with my friend Claire Baker, who I've been doing a lot of really deep ancestral work with as well. So, super deep emotional stuff. And then, of course, again, it was Thursday, so I had my private kickboxing class in the morning, which was physically demanding as well. Then that night, I had a late night call with my new book launch coach, which she's in the US. Most of her clients are in the US except for me. So that started at 11 o'clock at night, ended at after midnight. It was like 12:30. And then that meant that Friday I was exhausted and unproductive, and the same on Saturday. So I'm kind of exhausted just explaining this to you, which gives me an idea of how busy I've been. Sorry if that was really long-winded and excessive, but you get the idea. I've been really, really busy, both with work stuff and with physical stuff and exercise, and doing some really deep emotional work, which of course affects you. Even though you can't really see it, you can feel it. So once I sat down and I looked at all this stuff I've been doing, both the inner work, outer work, practical business work, it was like I had more compassion for myself. Like, I know I had to get a lot of stuff done this week that I didn't, but what was I thinking when I planned my week? I really should have taken a look at my calendar and thought, is this the best week to do 2 back-to-back sessions of really deep work? Is this the best session to be, or the best week to be trying to get so much stuff done after all of the stuff I did last week? So when you're planning your calendar, when you're planning your weeks, and you know you have stuff happening, when you know you have stuff coming up, like next week I'm going to be in Yorkshire for several days for a navigation course, that's going to be physically demanding and it's going to require a lot of focus on my part. Following week, I'm going to be away again. So it's like, yes, I have to get work done before I go, but then maybe I shouldn't be planning all these camping trips and other stuff. So now that I'm looking back on it, it's logical. But at the time, I was just really excited about trying out my new camping gear and wanting to practice using it and practice hiking with a bigger pack on my back before the summer is over. So I sometimes feel like I want to do everything and I don't have enough time to do all the things I want to do, both business-wise and personal-wise. But you can't always do all the things you want to do. So sometimes you have to prioritize. Now, again, looking back, I can see how I could have prioritized better, but now that's happened. It's gone. It's over with. All I can do is use this as a lesson for the future. The important thing here to me is that I was able to take a look at why I was feeling unproductive and realize that I needed to give myself a break. So I did give myself permission today, or not today, but well, actually today as well. I had a very lazy afternoon. And I allowed myself to sleep in. I slept like 9.5 hours last night for the first time in a long time because I was feeling really tired. So all week long, it was like at an intuitive level, I think I felt like I needed a break. And so I didn't force myself to push through that kind of feeling of laziness. Because I feel like sometimes those lazy days, those days or those weeks where you don't get much done, they can be a symptom of burnout. So sometimes when you've been doing too much, whether that's spending too much time on your business or doing too much physical activity or whatever, doing too much of anything, and then sometimes you hit those days where you're like, I can't do anything because I can't even focus. that can be a symptom of burnout. That can be a symptom of the fact that you're feeling lazy because that's what your body needs. That's what your mind needs. You need to take a break and just relax and do whatever it is. Give yourself permission to do whatever it is that you feel like you want to do. And so maybe that is taking a walk. Maybe that is taking a bath. Maybe that is sitting in your favorite chair with a good book. Maybe it is sleeping in. But give yourself permission to have those lazy moments or mornings or afternoons or days or even weeks. Because if you force yourself to push through that, sometimes that can lead to burnout. However, of course, there are some times when you're feeling lazy and not feeling like doing anything, and you might need to step things up a bit and try to get things done. So it was an effort for me to sit down in my office and do this podcast now. But I wanted to because I felt like it was important for me to tell this story while I was still kind of in the middle of this lazy week, but starting to come out the other end because it's fresh in my mind, it's fresh in my experience, and it's important for me to share this with you because I know I'm not the only one who's experienced this. Also, I needed to give my podcast editor some time to get it edited before Monday, and I already feel bad that I'm doing this so late. I'm usually much earlier with the episodes. So I had a timeline, I had a deadline. I had to get this done. So how to know when it's time to push yourself a little bit and when it's time to give yourself a break? How do you know that? Well, stop like I did and think. What have I been doing for the last few days? What have I been doing for the last few weeks? Am I possibly heading towards burnout? Now, if you are, give yourself a break. If not, if you've not been doing too much, if you feel like you could do more, if you feel like you have the energy to do more, but you just haven't been, go to your list and pick the 3 most important things for you to do and sit down and do one. Or pick the 3 easiest things for you to do on your list and do those. Or just go with your gut and just pick one thing and do it. And see if by taking that action, it kind of helps you focus and get back into the swing of doing things. Another reason why I find time blocking to be really useful is that if I know I have just 2 hours in my calendar to do a certain task, and after that I have another thing I'm supposed to do, then I sit down and I really, really focus. So if you're the kind of person who hasn't been planning your days or time blocking your calendar, and you find that you're not getting anything done, give that a try. Because I really find having that structure and seeing that I have a certain amount of time to do a certain task really helps me get stuff done. And again, this is assuming that you're not heading towards burnout. Be kind to yourself. If you need a break, take a break. And that break might be more than half an hour. It might be a full day. Sometimes we need to give ourselves a break, even when we don't want to, because it will help us be more productive later. Also intuitively, I think you know whether you need to give yourself a break or whether you need to just get stuff done. At some level, I knew this week that I had to let myself rest. So I was getting stuff done in the early parts of the day, but the afternoons, I've got big blank spots in the afternoons, especially on Wednesday and Friday. I just didn't do anything. And I think those were 2 of the days that I actually sat in bed and read a book. Because that's what I needed. That's what my body needed. That's what my brain needed. I had stuff that I was processing and I needed to give myself permission to do that. And like I said, I think I felt that at kind of an intuitive level. So you will know intuitively if you are in touch with yourself, whether you need a break or whether you need to get stuff done. But be kind to yourself. And I know for me, this can be really hard. I tend to have high expectations for myself and I tend to push myself possibly more than I need to. I tend to try to force myself to get things done when perhaps I actually need a break. So that's why it's so important to have reasonable expectations when planning your week. And like I said, if I had thought about the energetic exhaustion that I might have as a result of 3-hour session with my friend Sunit last Friday and then 2 back-to-back sessions this Thursday, plus all the other physical stuff I was doing, I would have known in advance that it might be a challenging week to get things done. So the trick is to now look into the future and look into the next few weeks of my calendar and be kind to myself and look at my calendar and say, how much can I reasonably get done on these days? Can I get all this stuff done or am I going to have to postpone it? And when you have to postpone stuff, that involves prioritizing. And sometimes we set a priority for tasks and then things change and priorities change. So be flexible with your priorities and give yourself permission to say, okay, when I planned my calendar for this week, that task was number one priority, but honestly, I don't really need to get it done this week. I could put it off for next week because I have other things that I now see are more important. So be flexible with your priorities and be willing to reevaluate them every week, every day, throughout the day, because that's going to help you get the most important things done. So to give you some examples, so next week, like I said, I'm up in Yorkshire. I've got a navigation course and I'm bringing my computer because I want to have it in case I can get stuff done. But honestly, I don't think I'm going to have a lot of free time. I know that the group has dinners planned together to work on some of the stuff from the course. I know that I'm going to be tired physically because I'm going to be in kind of higher hills than I'm used to walking. And so it's going to be more strenuous physically. I'm going to be tired. I'm probably going to get not much done. So I'm already knowing that I'm bringing the computer, but I'm going to be super flexible with it. I don't actually have time blocked in the evenings to work on my business. I'm leaving that open. If I have time, I'll do it. If I don't, I don't. Following week, I'm visiting a friend, so I'm probably not going to bring my computer. However, we have talked about getting some writing done together, so I might. Following week, I am back into normal business week. So I've got my usual times blocked out to get stuff done. I've got time open for client sessions, and I've got a deadline looming for my next book, and I'm going to have to start blocking out time to get that done. I think that by that week, my brain should be back on track, should be rested from a week with my friend, and I should be able to focus on that book, which is something that I really need to be working on. So hopefully that's something that I can do the following week because I've got a personal deadline of the end of the month for my first draft. Again, weeks beyond that, I can be fairly flexible. So I can see what I can fit into my calendar. I can see what I can't fit into my calendar based on other stuff that's going on. But basically, it's the next 2 weeks that I need to worry about. And based on my experience from the last couple of weeks of overloading myself, I'm going to be much more aware of what I can get done reasonably. So I hope you found this episode useful. I hope that it will help you to think about what you can reasonably get done in a week and what you maybe can't, either due to overloading yourself or lower energy levels or something else. So I encourage you to get stuff done when you can, of course, but also be kind to yourself when you feel like you can't get stuff done for whatever reason, and just really stop and think about it. So instead of beating yourself up for not focusing or not getting everything done on your to-do list, stop and think, like, what's going on? What could be affecting me? Did I not sleep well? Where am I in my cycle? Has anything emotional happened to me lately? Have I had really deep therapy session? Could that be affecting me? Could I be tired because I did an extra long workout at the gym? This stuff all affects us, and it affects our ability to get stuff done and run our business. So be kind to yourself and use this extra information to help you to plan a reasonable schedule in your calendar. So that's it for today. I hope you found this useful. As I said, I always find it timely to share the stuff that I'm going through. And I find that I get a lot of really good feedback on it because I'm not the only one experiencing this. So once more, be kind to yourself and have a fabulous week, whether you are having a lazy week or a very productive week. Please drop me a line and let me know what you thought about this week's episode. You can email me at holly@hollyworton.com or get in touch online. I would also love to see you on Patreon if you find this podcast interesting and useful. And if you get value out of it, I would love to have you support me over at Patreon. If you head over to hollyworton.com/Patreon, that's Patreon, you will be redirected there. Membership starts at just $1 a month, and you will get all kinds of stuff that I don't share anywhere else. So, thank you again for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, please come back next week. I will see you again on Monday as always. Have a great week. Thank you so much for listening to the Business Mindset Podcast. You can find more information about today's episode, including links for the topics that were discussed, at hollywworton.com. If you'd like to connect with other listeners and learn more about business mindset, join my private community for entrepreneurs at hollywworton.com/group. That will redirect you to the Facebook group. And if you enjoyed this episode, please remember to head over to iTunes and leave a quick review of this podcast. It just takes a minute. Thank you so much.